You open your eyes, but the room refuses to stay still. The ceiling of the Gerlach Hotel spins, not from illness, not from drink, but from the sheer velocity of the thoughts already firing before your body has fully woken. It is 1899. New York City hums outside the window, a city half built on electricity that you invented. And yet you are lying here in a narrow bed, alone, in a room you have demanded me cleaned 3 times before you entered it, with exactly 18 clean folded napkins on the nightstand, because anything less makes your skin crawl with an anxiety you cannot explain and have never been able to stop. You are Nikola Tesla, and today is going to be extraordinary, or it is going to destroy you. With Tesla, these are rarely different things. Sit up slowly. Feel the weight of last night still pressing on you, not fatigue exactly, but a density. You slept 2 hours, possibly less. This is not unusual. In the last 3 years, you have averaged perhaps 2 to 3 hours of sleep per night, sustained by an almost inhuman focus and a body you are quietly, systematically burning through. You are 43 years old. You look older. You feel on most mornings like a live electrical wire someone has forgotten to ground. Look at your hands. Long, extraordinarily long fingers. You have always noticed this about yourself, measured them more than once. A pianist's hands, people say, though you have never much cared for that comparison. These are a calculator's hands, an engineer's hands, hands that have sketched in the last decade alone designs for the alternating current induction motor, the Tesla coil, a system of wireless energy transmission, and 17 other patented inventions that your rivals are already quietly stealing or will steal within the decade. But none of that matters right now. Right now there is a problem. There is always a problem. You close your eyes and the problem assembles itself in the dark behind your eyelids with the clarity of a technical blueprint. This is how you work. Always have, since childhood in Smiljan, the small village in what is now Croatia, where you first began to understand that the physical world was mostly a slow, clumsy translation of a faster, cleaner world that existed in pure thought. You do not sketch ideas on paper first. You build them entirely in your mind, rotating them, stress testing them, running them through mental simulations at full operational speed until every component either works or fails. Weeks, sometimes months of this invisible engineering before a single bolt is turned. Your laboratory assistants have learned not to ask questions when you stand still for very long periods, staring at nothing. You are not staring at nothing. You are watching machinery run. The problem today is the oscillator. More precisely, the problem is the Earth itself. You have developed a theory, not yet proven, not yet funded beyond the crumbling patience of J.P. Morgan, that the Earth's own electromagnetic resonant frequency can be used as a transmission medium. That electrical power, limitless, clean, essentially free, could be broadcast wirelessly across the entire planet, using the Earth as a conductor, received by any properly tuned device anywhere on the globe, at any time, without wire, without cost, without the strangling monopoly of a copper-cabled grid. You have called this system the World Wireless System. You have staked your remaining credibility on it. Morgan has agreed to fund the construction of Wardenclyffe Tower on Long Island, a 57-meter wooden transmission tower topped with a 55-ton copper electrode dome, which will serve as the primary transmitter of this global network. The math in your mind is flawless. The funding is already evaporating. You rise. The morning ritual begins, and it is rigid, immovable, a scaffolding of controlled behavior that holds together a mind which might otherwise come apart. Cold water, poured from exactly the right height, onto a towel rather than directly onto skin. Direct contact with most surfaces still carries with it a faint but persistent discomfort you have catalogued and largely learned to manage. You dry your face with one of the 18 napkins. You discard it. You dress in the same style of clothes you have worn for years, black, immaculate, European in cut. New York, 1899, from the 7th floor of the Gerlach Hotel. The streets below are a cacophony of horse-drawn carriages and the first uncertain automobiles. Gas lamps fighting against the early morning light. Newsboys shouting headlines you cannot yet read from this height. And threaded through all of it, invisible but entirely your doing, the alternating current that lights the buildings, runs the motors, powers the elevators, hums inside the telephone exchanges. The war of currents, that brutal years-long battle between your AC system and Thomas Edison's direct current, ended 9 years ago at the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago, when your system lit 100,000 incandescent bulbs simultaneously for the first time in history, and the world understood, visually and viscerally, that you had been right. You won that war. You received almost none of the financial benefit. George Westinghouse paid you fairly in the beginning, and then the patent system, the investor class, and your own catastrophic financial management bled it away. You once tore up a royalty contract worth millions because Westinghouse told you his company was struggling, and you believed, deeply and without hesitation, that the technology mattered more than the money. You have never stopped believing this. You have also never recovered financially from believing it. Breakfast arrives. You have specific requirements: warm milk, honey, and a small portion of food that you have calculated to the approximate calorie count necessary to sustain your body weight without exceeding it. You eat alone. You always eat alone now, though this was not always your preference. In your 30s, you were a celebrated figure in New York society, dining with Mark Twain, with Rudyard Kipling, with the editors of major publications who published your lectures and theoretical papers. Those years are behind you. The social world requires a kind of performance that you no longer have the energy to sustain, and increasingly, you find the presence of other people, particularly people who do not understand what you are attempting, a friction that slows thinking. What slows thinking is the enemy. After breakfast, you will walk. This too is ritual. 33 blocks exactly, because 33 has always felt correct to you in a way you have not fully articulated even to yourself. You walk fast, alone, processing. Today, the walk will carry you past the construction updates from Wardenclyffe, past a telegraph office where you expect a communication from your assistant, George Scherf, about the tower's latest foundation work, and past the building on Houston Street, where 3 years earlier, your laboratory burned to the ground in a fire that destroyed an estimated $2 million worth of working prototypes, research notes, and equipment. You lost everything. You did not stop working. You stood outside in the cold and watched it burn, and then went back to your hotel room and began from memory to reconstruct every schematic you had lost, because they were all still intact, perfectly preserved, in the only laboratory that had never caught fire, the one inside your skull. People call this resilience. You call it simply continuing. There is no alternative. The walk this morning carries a particular urgency, because the thoughts are coming faster than usual today, overlapping in the way they do when a breakthrough is close, or when exhaustion has begun to dissolve the membranes between different levels of consciousness. You are thinking about resonance. Specifically, you are thinking about a demonstration you conducted in 1898, in which you attached a small mechanical oscillator to a steel pillar in your Manhattan laboratory and tuned it to the building's resonant frequency. The building began to shake. The surrounding buildings began to shake. The vibrations traveled through the steel and stone of lower Manhattan until you were forced to smash the oscillator with a hammer to stop it. The police arrived. You told them there had been a small earthquake. This was not entirely inaccurate. If a small oscillator could shake a city block, what could a properly scaled version do to a planet? This is the kind of thought that follows you down the street, past the telegraph office, past the ghost of your burned laboratory, back toward the hotel. Not a thought you chose, a thought that arrived, fully formed, and now will not leave until you have either solved it or filed it correctly in the vast, organized, obsessively maintained archive of your mind. You return to the hotel, you sit at your desk, you do not pick up a pen yet. Instead, you close your eyes, and the oscillator begins to spin again in the dark behind your eyelids, scaled up now, theoretical, planetary. This is the genius and the prison simultaneously. The afternoon will bring a meeting with an investor you have been cultivating, a careful, exhausting performance of optimism and practical language designed to translate the interior of your mind into something a man who understands neither physics nor poetry can be persuaded to fund. You are not good at this. You know you are not good at this. Edison was magnificent at it. That is the thing about Edison that history will not adequately record, the thing that irritates you most about the comparison people always make between the two of you. Edison understood money the way you understand electricity. He could feel where it wanted to flow and he built channels for it. You understand money the way Edison understood electromagnetic induction, which is to say, barely, and with open contempt. The investor meeting will not go well. It does not go well. You return to the hotel in the early evening, carrying the meeting's failure like a stone in your coat pocket. Morgan's patience is a shrinking quantity. Wardenclyffe needs another $100,000 to reach operational capacity. The newspapers, which once celebrated you, have begun printing pieces questioning whether the world wireless system is a practical enterprise or an elaborate fantasy. And you cannot entirely blame them, because the tower has been under construction for 2 years and you have not yet demonstrated a single watt of transmitted power. You eat alone, you dismiss the waiter, you count the objects on the table. At 9 o'clock you go to your desk and you work. This is the real day, not the breakfast, not the walk, not the failed meeting. The real day begins at 9 o'clock in the evening and runs until 3 or 4 in the morning, when the mind finally slows enough for the body to insist on sleep. In these hours you write theoretical papers, technical correspondence, long letters to other scientists in Europe with whom you maintain a competitive but genuine intellectual exchange. You sketch, though sketch is the wrong word, because what appears on paper is already finished, already tested, already running, translated from the mental model with a precision that your assistants find uncanny. You think, systematically and at speed, about resonance, about the ionosphere as a transmission layer, about frequencies that could carry not just power, but information across any distance. You are, in 1899, within a coherent theoretical framework of what will eventually become radio, wireless power transmission, and a communication system that will not be practically implemented for another century. You know this. What you do not know, what keeps the 2 hours of nightly sleep restless and thin, is whether the world will catch up before your funding runs out, and your body gives way, and your mind, which has always run hotter and faster than the machinery available to test it, finally burns through the last of its resources and goes dark. You set down your pen. The hotel room is silent. Outside, the city hums with your electricity. Inside, the oscillator turns. You open your eyes, and the ceiling still refuses to stay still. But you have known since childhood that a ceiling that stays perfectly still is a ceiling with nothing interesting happening above it. You close your eyes again, and you go back to work.